Willpower is built, not born. Most people believe willpower is something you're either born with or you're not. But science tells a very different story. Every single time you choose to do something difficult, especially when you don't feel like doing it, you strengthen the part of your mind responsible for discipline. Each hard decision makes the next one a little easier. Over time, you become better at resisting distractions, controlling impulses, and staying focused on the future you truly want. That's why willpower isn't a gift. It's a skill you train. I learned this lesson through experience, a personal turning point when I was younger. I wasn't disciplined at all. I preferred comfort, fun, and avoiding difficult tasks whenever possible. Hard work wasn't something that came naturally to me. Everything began to change when I realized that if I wanted a different life, I had to start making different choices. At 19, I started working in a sales company. There was a small room in the office that nobody liked. It was cold, uncomfortable, and filled with old customer records. Most people avoided it whenever they could. One day I looked at that room, looked at the phone in front of me, and had a simple thought: if I want my future to change, I have to do what I'm avoiding right now. I didn't feel motivated. I didn't suddenly become fearless. I simply decided to act anyway. So I started making call after call. It was uncomfortable. It was repetitive. Many conversations went nowhere. But I kept going. Those daily decisions didn't just improve my sales skills, they slowly changed me. Every time I chose action over comfort, my ability to handle difficult situations became stronger. The science behind willpower, modern neuroscience, explains why this happens. Inside your brain is an area called the anterior cingulate cortex, often shortened to the ACC. Think of it as one of the brain's key control centers for self-discipline. It becomes active whenever you're caught between two choices. One part of you wants the easy option. Another part knows the better decision serves your long-term future. For example, you want to eat unhealthy food, but you're trying to improve your health. You want to stay in bed, but you know exercising will make you stronger. You want to scroll endlessly, but you have important work waiting. The ACC helps you notice this internal conflict and gives you the ability to choose long-term success over short-term comfort. It also plays an important role in emotional control. Instead of reacting instantly with anger, frustration, or impulse, it helps you pause, think clearly, and respond wisely. In many ways, this part of the brain acts like your internal discipline coach. Discipline changes the brain. One of the most encouraging discoveries from neuroscience is that this system isn't fixed. Research suggests that regularly practicing self-control and repeatedly choosing difficult but meaningful actions strengthens the brain networks involved in cognitive control and self-regulation. In simple words, every time you do the difficult thing instead of the comfortable thing, you're training your brain to make better decisions in the future. Discipline becomes easier because you've practiced it, not because life became easier. Think of it like strength training. Imagine lifting weights. A light weight offers little challenge. A heavier weight forces your muscles to work harder, and over time they grow stronger. Your mind works in a surprisingly similar way. Every uncomfortable choice creates mental resistance. Waking up early, finishing work when you'd rather quit, having a difficult conversation, keeping your promises when nobody is watching. These moments become your mental workout. The greater the challenge you overcome, the stronger your self-control becomes. And eventually, the things that once felt impossible start feeling normal. That's how discipline is built, one difficult decision at a time. Your greatest battle is internal. The hardest challenges in life rarely come from the outside. They happen inside your own mind. That moment when you know exactly what you should do, but every part of you wants to avoid it. You know you should wake up early. You know you should exercise. You know you should finish the work, but another voice whispers, later, tomorrow, not today. That invisible struggle is your real resistance. Unlike lifting weights, where gravity pushes against your muscles, discipline pushes against your thoughts. It's an internal resistance that appears every time comfort competes with growth. And here's the most powerful truth. Willpower is not something only a lucky few are born with. It isn't a gift handed to certain people while everyone else is left behind. Science shows that virtually anyone can strengthen self-control through repeated practice. Your brain adapts to the choices you make, becoming more efficient at self-regulation over time. Your brain adapts to your choices. Researchers have found that people who regularly exercise, especially on days when they don't feel like it, show stronger activity in the brain networks involved in self-control. Repeated effort can also lead to structural changes through neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to reorganize and strengthen its connections. The important part isn't exercise alone. It's choosing action when comfort is calling, when someone gets up for a workout despite feeling tired, when they keep training even after a difficult day, when they finish what they started instead of giving up. They're doing far more than improving their fitness. They're strengthening the mental systems that support discipline. Change is always possible. Research has also observed differences in the ACC across groups of people. For example, some studies have found that on average, individuals living with obesity may show differences in this brain region compared with lean individuals. However, these are group averages, not fixed rules, and they don't determine what any one person can achieve. The encouraging part is what happens next. As people begin building healthier habits, moving more regularly, improving nutrition, and consistently resisting unhelpful impulses, the brain can adapt. The same area involved in self-control can become stronger over time. That means your past does not define your future. Your current habits don't permanently define your brain. Every healthy decision becomes another opportunity for growth. Who builds the strongest discipline? Think about the people who regularly push beyond their comfort zones, athletes who train when they're exhausted, endurance runners who keep moving despite discomfort, meditators who practice staying focused when the mind wants to wander, people recovering from addiction who choose sobriety one day at a time, individuals who commit to therapy and face painful emotions instead of running from them, entrepreneurs who keep working through setbacks instead of quitting. Although their challenges are different, they all share one habit. They repeatedly choose growth over comfort. Each difficult decision becomes another repetition in the mental gym. Success isn't reserved for the naturally disciplined. Many people believe successful individuals simply have more motivation, but motivation comes and goes. Discipline grows through repetition. If you've struggled to stay consistent, if you've started and stopped more times than you can count, if you've questioned whether you're simply not disciplined enough, remember this. Every time you choose the harder but wiser path, you're training your brain for the next challenge. You're not proving whether you have discipline. You're building it one decision, one uncomfortable action. One day at a time, discipline is built at the point of resistance. Here's the truth that changes everything. Discipline doesn't grow because you're busy. It grows because you choose action when every emotion tells you to stop. Working hard isn't enough. You can stay busy all day and still avoid the one task that truly matters. Real discipline is created in the exact moment you override resistance, the moment you say, I don't feel like doing this, but I'm doing it anyway. That's where growth begins. Every time you face something uncomfortable, instead of escaping it, you're teaching your brain that comfort is no longer in control. Resistance is your training ground. Think about the moments you usually avoid. Choosing fruit instead of another sugary snack, getting out of bed when the alarm rings, closing social media to focus on your work, staying calm during an argument instead of reacting emotionally. making the difficult phone call you've been postponing, finishing the project you've been procrastinating on. None of these moments seem extraordinary on their own, but together they shape who you become. Each time you overcome yourself, it's like completing another repetition in the mental gym. One rep won't transform you, hundreds of them will. The battle happens before the action. Many people think discipline begins when you start the task. It actually begins a few seconds earlier. It begins when your mind starts negotiating. Skip it today. You'll do it tomorrow. One more hour won't matter. That's the voice trying to keep you comfortable. The goal isn't to silence that voice forever. The goal is to stop letting it make your decisions. Every time you choose your values over your feelings, you become a little stronger. Why difficult habits become easier? Have you ever noticed that something terrifying at first eventually becomes routine? That's because your brain learns through repetition. The first workout feels difficult. The 10th feels manageable. The 100th becomes part of your identity. The challenge doesn't disappear overnight, but your ability to handle it grows. That's how discipline works. Not through perfection, through repeated practice. Train your mind. Every day, if you want stronger self-control, stop waiting for giant opportunities. Start with one small challenge every day. Treat it like mental strength training. Choose one thing you've been avoiding. Maybe it's making your bed. Replying to an important email, meditating for 10 minutes, cleaning your workspace, having an honest conversation, reviewing your finances, finishing an unfinished task. The task itself isn't the real goal. The goal is proving to yourself that your actions are no longer controlled by your emotions. Every time your mind says, "I don't want to," and you respond, "I'm doing it anyway." You've completed another mental workout, your daily mental gym. Imagine walking into a gym. The weight on the bar isn't there to stop you. It's there to make you stronger. Mental resistance works exactly the same way. Every excuse, every temptation to quit is another weight waiting to be lifted. The resistance isn't the problem. The resistance is the training. And every time you lift it, you're becoming the kind of person who can achieve goals that once felt impossible. Notice the moments of micro-resistance discipline isn't usually tested during life's biggest challenges. It's tested in the smallest moments, the moments most people never notice. You look at the messy drawer you've been meaning to organize. You think about replying to an important email. You remember the workout you promised yourself. Then your brain immediately suggests something easier. "I'll do it later. It can wait. Let me check my phone first." Those tiny moments are called micro-resistance. They seem insignificant, but they're where your future is decided. Every time you choose comfort, the habit of avoidance grows. Every time you choose action, the habit of discipline grows. Use the 2-minute rule when resistance appears. Don't argue with yourself. Don't wait until you feel motivated. Simply make the task smaller. Tell yourself, "I'm only doing this for 2 minutes. That's it. No pressure, no huge commitment, just 2 focused minutes. Organize 1 shelf, write 1 paragraph, write 1 page. Answer 1 email, wash a few dishes. Once you begin, you'll often realize starting was the hardest part. Momentum usually follows action, not the other way around. Celebrate every small win when the timer ends. Pause for a second. Acknowledge what you just did. Say something like, "I keep my promises to myself. I act even when I don't feel like it. I'm becoming more disciplined every day." This isn't about pretending. It's about reinforcing your identity. Confidence doesn't come from listening to motivational videos. Confidence comes from collecting evidence that you can trust yourself. Every promise you keep becomes another reason to believe in yourself. That's how real self-confidence is built. Not create a daily discipline. Window, you don't need 3 hours of perfect focus. You need consistency. Choose one small window every day. 10 to 15 minutes is enough. During that time, remove every distraction. No phone, no multitasking, no switching between tasks. Just complete attention on one meaningful activity. Treat it like a mental sprint. Maybe you're learning guitar, reading something difficult for work, practicing a new language, meditating in silence, cleaning a neglected corner of your home, learning to code, working through a challenging problem. The activity itself doesn't matter. The habit of sustained focus does, Doug. You're training your brain, not just completing tasks. Every time you ignore the urge to check your phone, every time you resist opening another tab, every time you stay focused instead of giving in to distraction, you're strengthening the mental systems responsible for attention, self-control, and decision-making. You're not simply finishing a task, you're practicing the skill of staying in control. Think of it like brushing your teeth. It isn't exciting, it doesn't feel life-changing, but done consistently, it prevents much bigger problems later. Mental discipline works the same way. Small daily efforts create extraordinary long-term results. Learn to welcome discomfort. Most people treat discomfort as a warning sign. They assume feeling uncomfortable means they're doing something wrong. In reality, discomfort often means you're growing. Growth begins where comfort ends. The goal isn't to make yourself miserable. The goal is to stop running from temporary discomfort. For example, you feel like taking a warm shower, tray finishing with 30 seconds of cold water. You instinctively reach for your phone during a quiet moment, leave it where it is. You feel restless while meditating. Stay with the feeling instead of escaping it. You want to quit halfway through a difficult task. Finish one more minute. These aren't random acts of suffering. They're deliberate exercises in self-control. Every time you choose discomfort instead of immediate comfort, you're teaching your brain an important lesson. I am in charge, not my impulses. And over time, that lesson transforms the way you work, think, and live. Choose a different response. There will always be moments when your first instinct is to react. Someone says something that upsets you. A situation doesn't go your way. You feel the urge to argue, complain, or lose your temper. In those few seconds, your old habits will try to take over. But that pause, the tiny space between impulse and action, is where real strength is built. Instead of reacting automatically, choose a different response. Take a breath, stay calm, walk away if you need to, not because you're weak, because you're strong enough to stay in control. Every time you respond instead of react, you're teaching your brain something powerful. I control my emotions. My emotions don't control me. That's how emotional resilience grows. The more often you practice it, the easier it becomes to stay calm under pressure. Make delayed gratification a daily habit. One of the simplest ways to strengthen self-control is by learning to wait. Our brains love instant rewards. The phone notification, the sugary snack, the impulse purchase, the endless scrolling. The problem isn't that these things exist. The problem is when they control your decisions. Start creating small pauses between the craving and the action. When you wake up, don't reach for your phone immediately. Give yourself 15 minutes first. When you crave unhealthy food, wait a few minutes before deciding. You may discover the craving fades. If you want to buy something online, leave it in your basket for 24 hours before checking out. Many impulse purchases lose their appeal after a day, even once a week. Spend an evening without social media, streaming, or constant entertainment. Give your mind a chance to be still. These small delays may seem insignificant, but each one reminds your brain, I'm making this decision, not my impulse. See resistance as a sign of growth. Most people think resistance means they're on the wrong path. High performers often see it differently. When something becomes difficult, they don't panic. They expect difficulty. Instead of saying, this is too hard, they ask, what is this challenge trying to teach me? Resistance isn't evidence that you should quit. It's often evidence that you're growing. Think about physical exercise. Muscles grow because they're challenged. The same principle applies to your mind. If a task feels uncomfortable, if it demands patience, if it stretches your focus, there's a good chance it's helping you develop. The goal isn't to avoid difficulty. The goal is to become the kind of person who can handle it. Train your mind like an athlete. The next time your mind says, skip today, answer with action. When it says, you're too tired, take one more step. When it says, this can wait until tomorrow. Begin now. Every one of those moments is another mental repetition, another opportunity to strengthen your discipline, another chance to become someone your future self will thank. Your brain changes. With every choice one of the most remarkable discoveries in neuroscience is neuroplasticity. Your brain is not fixed. It constantly adapts to repeated behavior. The habits you repeat become stronger. If you repeatedly avoid challenges, avoiding challenges becomes easier. If you repeatedly face them, courage becomes easier. Your brain gradually reshapes itself around what you practice most. You're not simply changing your habits, you're changing the way your mind operates. That's why consistency matters far more than perfection. The life you're building starts today. Research suggests that stronger self-regulation is associated with healthier aging, better emotional control, and greater persistence toward long-term goals. While many factors influence longevity and brain health, developing habits of discipline can support overall well-being. So, if you've been calling yourself lazy, if you've convinced yourself that you're not disciplined, if you've believed that successful people simply have something you don't, remember this. You are not permanently limited. You are simply untrained, and training can begin today. Ask yourself one simple question. What is one uncomfortable thing I can do before today ends? Then do it, not because it's easy, not because you're motivated, but because every difficult choice is another mental push-up. Every moment you overcome resistance makes you stronger. Every promise you keep builds trust in yourself. Every disciplined action shapes a better future. The life you want isn't created by one extraordinary decision. It's built through hundreds of ordinary moments when you choose growth over comfort. And those moments begin with the very next choice you make.